live coverage of the Mountain Dew 500 from Hickory, North Carolina.
Hello, everyone. Cousin Kale here at the inaugural Jack Ingram 111 here at Hickory Motor Speedway.
The Z-Max Car Store comes to Hickory Motor Speedway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hickory on a beautiful 80-degree Easter Saturday. Mike Joy with Neil Bonnet. Steve Grissom leads them down the green with Earnhardt alongside.
It's a sizzling Saturday night at the Hickory Motor Speedway.
A tricky little dish composed mostly of hard left turns, but with enough straights to eliminate the tourists.
For Glenn Jarrett and Neil Bonnet, Mike Joy congratulating Tommy Houston on a great victory here at his home track, Hickory.
Off turn two, it's a freight train of late models thundering down the back straightaway of America's most famous short track.
The real key to Hickory is how well you have the car getting up off the corner here. You have to handle well.
On a blustery afternoon in Hickory, North Carolina, you are looking at one of America's most famous short tracks, the birthplace of NASCAR stars. This is the Hickory Motor Speedway.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to America's Most Famous Podcast, episode number 4. And so we're moving right along with this thing. I'm Bryson Davis with cousin Kel Lineberger, who's my partner in crime when it comes to the Flow Racing broadcast booth. So, Kel, what's up, man? How we doing?
Oh, man, just happy to be here for episode number 4. Got a lot to talk about today, and both here and abroad.
Yeah, man. So we had a heck of a race at Hickory on Saturday night. A lot of fun. Obviously, the late models, the limited street stocks were there, and the Carolina Pro guys came to town. So it was a good night. Beautiful weather. Couldn't ask for a better night. But the racing was really good. I had a lot of fun. What do you think? Initial reaction to Saturday night?
I thought it was good. I was really surprised by some of our guys that have been running really well this season, having some mechanical problems.
Yeah.
I know Charlie Watson had some problems Saturday night, which is very uncharacteristic for him and his team. And we'll get a word with him a little bit later on about those things. But, I would say that was probably the biggest thing. A couple of people had some issues, and we've had a lot of that this season. A few weeks ago, the 55 went up in flames, which is something we definitely don't see a lot of. And I would just say that was probably the biggest thing of just, gremlins. Gremlins just take, Cody DeMarmels, we talked to him in the top 3, when we interview everybody, and he's just like, man, power steering pump went out. And it's like, how often does that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, really. Especially for him. They were fast all day and fast. He sat on the pole and had a pretty good lead up there until late in the race, and obviously not like him to have that kind of an issue and that fall off that he had. So to get out of the car, he still had a solid day, obviously, but to get out of the car and find that out kind of cleared the air and showed us what happened. But we saw some unusual stuff. Charlie Watson's situation was a little bit different. Didn't get a chance to really talk with him. We'll talk to him later, but after the race, so not really sure yet exactly what was going on there. But they just he seemed to kind of struggle to find what he needed there, and had some trouble in race 1. Came back out in race number 2. He missed the invert because he was so many laps down there at the start. But I'm not sure if they quite diagnosed that or figured it out, but. He still came out several times, ran some laps. They'd come in and work on it, run some laps. So I'm sure they were able to learn something. I'll be anxious to hear what he has to say about that.
Yeah, I'm anxious to talk to him. So recapping the weekend, as you said, the limited Paramount Auto Group limited late models were in town. Aiden King fastest in qualifying, but did not come away with that win. He ended up finishing one position back. Hudson Sharp, the North Palm Beach, Florida native, he gets his first win at Hickory Motor Speedway. And Leapfrog Landscape and Late Models. Thomas Bean and company did really well this weekend. We appreciate Thomas being there. But when we come down to the features, Thomas finished up front in feature number 1. He finished second to Michael Bumgarner in race number 1. And then, of course, we inverted the entire field. And in the second race, and that'll be something we'll talk a little bit about later on as well, Graham Holler was the winner of the second race, but unfortunately got a disqualification due to some unapproved parts that apparently, from what we're told, we don't allow at Hickory Motor Speedway. So that gave the win to Thomas Bean. So it Thomas Bean and Michael Bumgarner just swapping places. Thomas Bean, Michael Bumgarner, Nathan Lyons were your top three in race number 2. And then with our street stock division, everybody coming back to town today. Cody DeBarmel's reappearing and came out with a great qualifying effort, set on the pole with a 16:057. But as we alluded to earlier, had some power steering difficulties and slipped on back a little bit. John Reynolds gets his second win ever on pavement, from what we're told. And then look at Marshall Sutton, last week's guest, getting up in there in the P3.
Yeah, I think maybe that has something to do with him being on the podcast. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of a thing we can start putting in there. But no, Marshall got a good finish. It was good to hear him talk after the race. We had him on the show last week, and he was talking about how this is potentially his farewell tour, and how he said that he was going to leave it up to the fans. And for the first time, he kind of expressed that to the fans this past weekend, and everybody, you could hear the fans' reaction, and obviously they want him to stay, just like the rest of us. But it was cool to see those guys run up front again. Marshall, he's got that Camaro. They didn't run it. He said they're still working the bugs out of that new car. But they put the Monte Carlo on track, Old Faithful as he calls it, and had a pretty solid finish out of it. And so that top three, it was good to see John Reynolds get a win. Good to see him up there in victory lane and talk with him and his crew. I think they were sort of not working out really issues, but I don't think they showed up to the track with the car being exactly where they wanted it. But they had a few things to work out throughout the day. Talking to them just after practice, right before qualifying, they said they were comfortable with where they were at, but they really felt they could improve a lot. And I think they were able to do that and capitalize on the opportunities that John had there in that race. And then for Cody, obviously the issue with his power steering and being able to still continue and get that P2 finish for him. And Marshall Sutton there, P3. Trey Buff ran a pretty good race. He qualified second. So saw his post on Facebook, I believe, after the race. He was talking a little bit about just their situation, and they qualified really well. The race didn't fall their way, but he and Marshall were really going at it there for several laps and putting on a great battle there on the racetrack. So that the street stocks, they always put on a great show, and I think out of all of the classes, the divisions that we have at Hickory, the street stocks are probably up there on my list, just at how entertaining it is and how talented those drivers are and the teams that they have. And so we certainly had a good street stock, Heritage Finance street stock feature there Saturday night.
And then the Carolina Pro late models were what we ended the night with. And Evan McKnight sat on the pole, and they did a draw for a 4-car invert, which put him back in P4. And man, what a great race that young man had. He charged back up through there. Took him a few minutes to get there. Had a few incidences in that race. Nothing real crazy. Lap number 1, it was total pandemonium. But Evan McKnight able to make his way back up front. And I was talking to our production manager, Nick, and he said, that's probably one of the best victory lanes you've ever had to do. He said, I think that's the first time you got to hold one of those giant checks, and I also got a hug out of it, man. I was excited about that. That young man was so excited, and that's what I like to see, somebody that is so passionate about what he's doing. He's excited to be there, a track with a lot of history, and he's like, man, I just want a Hickory Motor Speedway. He's like, I'm on top of the world.
Yeah, I love that. Even the interview that didn't get aired was when he won the pole down there, and that interview was really good. And just throughout the day, and getting to know him as they've come over the last couple of weeks, really have noticed. And his post race interview was probably, like you said, it's probably the best I've seen in a very long time. And just being able to see that raw emotion from a driver on what it means to them, to win at a place like Hickory. I think some drivers recognize that more than others, and I think it's just really cool to me to see that he acknowledges he acknowledges and respects the history and the foundation that Hickory has, and for a win to mean so much to somebody, for him to come out and be so excited about that, I think is just pretty cool. So congratulations to him. I know he's excited and picking up his win at America's Most Famous Short Track. I'm like you. When I was up in the booth, you were down there doing the interview. I'm up in the booth, and I was just smiling because it was just awesome, cool moment to just get to witness.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm just so happy for that young man, and let's see if maybe in the coming weeks, maybe we can't get him on before they return again this season.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that would be a good interview for sure.
I think so too. I thought about that a lot over the weekend.
Yeah, man, that's a great idea.
Well, coming up next for you race fans, we're going to have Steve Smart, who is actually the title sponsor. His company, Smart Electric. We always give him a huge shout out for the Jumbotron each week because he did a lot of stuff in the off season to help us at Hickory Motor Speedway. We'll have him on next right here on America's Most Famous Podcast. All right, race fans, we're back on America's Most Famous Podcast, and we're here with Steve Smart tonight via telephone. Steve, it's great to have you on the show tonight.
I do appreciate you inviting me to join. Thank you.
Well, I know that we were able to have you at Smart Electric night at the races, and we appreciate you guys being such a great partner here at the racetrack and everything, and obviously coming on and helping us and everything here tonight. But give the fans a little bit of background on yourself. You know, how long you've been racing. I know you're a multi-generational racer, which is one of those things we have a lot of at Hickory, but because your dad raced too, right?
Yeah, he was big in the dirt tracks in the early and late 70s. We traveled all over the East Coast racing. He was one of the real wheel man in dirt back in the day. I've actually got pictures on the deck lid of my car where he was racing at Hickory when it was still dirt. So the roots run deep with Hickory. I didn't really start my racing career till 4 years ago. I just got busy raising a family and a business, and some of my friends got together and built a car for me, and I'll never be able to thank them enough for doing that for me as a surprise, because nobody's ever done anything like that for me. And it's one of the things I'd always wanted to race, but never really had the opportunity. And now I'm fortunate enough in business. I've got a little time, and we're having a great time with it.
Yeah, it looked like you guys were having been having a great time for a few seasons with us, and I know that you had all your employees and stuff over in the hospitality suite next to us, and it was really great to see them. And it looked like all those guys were having a really good time. I know you said your daughter and some other people were down there taking pictures. Everybody had smiles on their faces.
Well, we're very, very fortunate to have a great group of employees. It's a small way for us to say thank you for all of their hard work and the effort that they put into making our company have a good name in the industry. And it's just a small way of us saying thank you, and hopefully they enjoy the racing as much as we do.
Now, I know that you said that this is the not the second year, fourth year that you've been racing on a regular basis. And I know me and Bryson, we saw you cutting some laps on opening week with the new street stock car. How much of an adjustment has that been? Because you guys have been really coming along, making good headway with the new car. Tell the folks a little bit about that.
Well, the step from Renegade to street stock's been a bit steeper than I anticipated. The car that we got was a used car, and we're trying to adapt it to Hickory, which is very unique. And the car really wasn't set up or built for that, and we're struggling right now. It's hard for me to run in the back. I feel like I'm pretty much in the way half the time, but the guys are working really hard. They're doing their best to put me back up front, and I feel confident we'll be there before the season's over.
Yeah, man. So that's good. I could imagine that's got to be a tough jump. I mean, from coming from a Renegade, switching over and racing a street stock, I know that's got to be an adjustment, but it'll be fun to watch you guys sort of move over into that. And you've had some pretty good runs really already, and we know that just you as a driver, you've got enough talent to really make something happen. And so I think it's pretty cool to see you and a lot of times running both when we've got the Renegades there with the street stocks. From a driver's standpoint, running a place like Hickory, how does it compare to racing at certain other places? Because I know, Kel and I, we've both been on the track and even took some laps ourselves. But from a race car, I know Hickory's rough, a really, really tough surface to race on. So what does that kind of look like?
Well, I think the preferred term is the track has character,
Yeah,
and it certainly does that. Turns 1 and 2 are fairly smooth getting in. Down the back stretch is a little rough, but 3 and 4 is just really ripply, especially coming off 4. The turn is a lot tighter off of 4 than it is 2, and you got to be careful about getting up off of 4, or you'll get into the front stretch wall. And we've had the occasion to do that several times in our races down there. The difference between the street stocks and the Renegades is there's so much more grip with the wider tires. They've closed that gap this year some with going with the new tire for the Renegades. They've got a lot more grip, and those are not as loose and squirrely. The cars are more stable, I think, is the best way to analyze that. But the street stocks have so much grip coming in and coming off. The G forces are a lot more than I'm used to, certainly, and having a seat that fits correctly is very, very important with the faster the cars goes. And we're still working on that, getting me comfortable in the car as well.
So, and how long and I will say, I want to put this question. I know you guys have got the Renegade program down. You guys have been really successful at Hickory and up in Caldwell County as well at that racetrack, running, even sometimes 2 races in the same weekend and winning, which is awesome. But, from the time that you started with the street stock car, putting some laps on it and to where you're at now, how has your team been able to adapt, and how, where do you feel like you'll be in a winner's circle position perhaps by the end of the season as things kind of continue on a little bit?
Well, we've been very fortunate. We've got lots of people in the pits are willing to help us, and they want to see us succeed. The Goebel family, Josh and Eric and Jimmy, have been sharing a lot with us and helping us with a lot of things. But I cannot say enough about Lee Falk, Michael Falk, and Lee Falk Racing. They've taken a special interest in me, and I don't think it's, I think maybe I amuse them, but they enjoy helping us, and I certainly expect to be in the winner's circle before the end of the year. I don't do this not thinking I'm going to win. That's the only reason I'm racing, because the people I've got helping me, the equipment that we've got and have the ability to get, with the help that we've got, it will be certainly disappointing to me and the team if we don't win a race before the year's out.
Yeah, man. Well, you do have a pretty good team of guys that come around and help you with your team. Talk a little bit about them. Who all you got helping you out?
Well, we've got first and foremost Tim Humphreys. He works as much as I do, or more on the car. As I work in the business, he works that much on the car, and as well as he's an employee at Smart Electric, and he does the race car at night on a part-time basis, but he puts in a lot of hours, as well as Lee Holman and Johnny Wright and Ricky Craven. That's the core group that works on the cars. And one of the things I said at the championship banquet this year is I don't think the drivers appreciate the help they've got enough to be thankful for them, be willing to sacrifice their evenings, their Saturdays for a pit pass and a hot dog. You just can't say enough about that, and be thankful enough for them for doing that for us.
Absolutely, man. I think that's cool to hear. From a competitor standpoint, and I can just I can tell just as a fan watching and listening to you now. Those guys mean a lot to you, and I think that's I think the fans will like that. I think they like to make those connections and figure out who it is down there helping you out. But for you to show what they mean and give them some credit, because I know you've got some guys that really do put in the work and really work hard and you've been successful in your several years of racing now. So I think it takes a really good crew around you, a really good crew around a really good driver to have that kind of success.
Well, I appreciate it, and the thing that I cannot stress enough is how much they work, and if we don't have success, how disappointed I am for them that we don't do well, because it's easier for me to be interviewed and be on the front stretch and everybody get to see me, but nobody gets to see the work that they put in, and they're not looking for that. But we're all lifelong friends, and this just gives us the opportunity to spend time together when normally we probably wouldn't if we weren't racing.
Now, Steve, the people that are on your race team that you just mentioned, did any of them, prior to you getting into racing just a few years ago, did any of them have any prior experience helping, any other drivers or working in a different, division or anything of that nature? Did it just kind of gel together like, hey, guys, we're going to, I got this car now. We're going to start going to the track and trying to race some on Saturday nights. And then you just ended up with a big family helping.
Well, we had the Goebels and John Manth with Black Bear Transmissions, who was a sponsor of the some of the series last year, maybe a couple years ago, and he was the catalyst that built the car for me. He got the group together that built that car and brought some of my friends in. And Tim was working with the Goebels, Tim Humphreys, and he's been in racing. His background's more in dirt track racing and helping the Goebels. He had a working and a friendship with the Goebel family before I came along. And Johnny Wright, who's a big help to us, he worked for Bill Elliott and several Cup teams, several Xfinity teams, and that kind of thing. And he helps us on a part-time basis. But you can't say enough about the input that he has on the race team and his ability as a fabricator to help us make the cars look as good as they do. I'm gonna brag on them a little bit. I feel like our cars are the best, if not one of the best looking cars that we've got there. Both the street stock and the Renegade. It always comes to the track looking nice. It's always fixed. And, we're going to try to run both the street stock and the Renegades all year at Hickory, and maybe some at some of the other tracks. But, my work schedule's not going to allow me to race at both tracks on the same night like we did last year.
Talk a little bit about some of those nights, because I know that was something that we talked on our broadcast when we would cover you. We would say, well, here's Steve, and now he's going to skip to another track and he's going to come back. Talk a little bit about that, because to me that seems like that's a lot going on for you and your team in one day.
What is the logistics of running two tracks the same night? We're fortunate enough that the owners of Hickory and the Caldwell County track were very, very helpful, accommodating for us to adjust race schedules to give us, enough time to make it work. It was close a couple of times, but we were able to make it work both times. That we would come to Hickory in the mornings. We would run a car over to the other track and leave it, and then we would come to Hickory and qualify, leave from qualifying, go to the other track and race. They would race us first because we could get out through the tunnel, and then we would come back to Hickory and race. And then we either had somebody over there to bring the car back to the shop, or we would drive back to the racetrack and pick the cars up and bring them all home and get all of our stuff gathered up in a pile again.
Yeah, man, that is awesome. I love that. I think that's just hearing about you guys doing that and seeing that you're still able to make it back and forth. And I think it's cool that everybody, kind of worked with you on that to make sure you could get down there. But I find that fascinating, that you were doing some double headers there. You did it quite a bit.
We did. Realistically, we should have won the championship at both tracks in Renegades last year. I made a mistake late in the race and got together with Gary Ledbetter, no fault of his own. And, I've apologized several times for that accident, because he suffered a pretty hard hit and did a lot of damage to his race car. But, in the end, it ended up costing us a championship there. But we were fortunate enough to win the championship at the other track. But had it not been for me having a racer's head on me instead of a championship head on me, we would have probably had championships at both tracks last year.
Well, Steve, it's one of those things, and that's me and him talked about that a good little bit. You had two different paint schemes on those two cars last year. Both of them were red at one time, and then one of them was black. And I'm not gonna lie, if my memory serves me right, the red paint scheme, your dad's car was painted that color, because I remember the first couple years you ran with us, it had the Apollo restaurant on the back side of it, which I know Jason Sherrill, the old track announcer, is like, yeah, that was his one of the sponsors on his dad's car. It was his car was burgundy too, and then I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like the black one a little bit too.
Well, the the red one is that color's candy apple red, and he drove that car for Jivey Simpson, who lived across the street from Robert G., which is Dale Jr.'s grandpa. And we ran for them and ran for Robert G. And, that's what we grew up doing. But that was his favorite car, the one he liked the best. And he had a great deal of success in that car. And that was sort of a throwback scheme to him. And I've latched on to the color and the number, and that will be mine till we're done. But it's still representing him. The black car that we had was a car that we had bought for backup purposes, and we're reskinning it. It's got a new body on it. We're working on the finishing touches for it, but hopefully we'll have it to the racetrack by midsummer to do some testing. It's not as stable as the original red car, but we want to try to get it that way. But we want to be in a position where if we have an accident or if we have a mechanical failure, that we've got a backup, because again, my goal is to win a championship in Renegade and in street stock this year. That may be reaching a lot on the street stock side, but you got to have a goal, something to start with.
Yeah, man. Well, I think it's certainly possible. We've seen you have a lot of success in the Renegades, and it'll be fun watching you guys learn about this street stock stuff and figure it out, and put together some good runs here as we move throughout the season. I mean, it's still early. We're still, as we're recording this, we're still in March right now, so still a little bit of a ways to go this year. But I think you guys could certainly be up there in the running for it.
Well, we've got another car at the shop. I think I'm going to be car poor before it's over with, but I've got another Camaro in the shop now. We're prepping, getting it ready for a backup for the Monte Carlo that we've got, and I've got a new car being built that should be online by late summer, early fall. And I'm expecting good things from it.
Well, we definitely can't wait to see that come out, and I'm sure it'll be candy apple red with a 16 on the side, so you'll be easy to spot. I was telling Bryson, that's one thing I love about your street stock car. Of me and him always kind of going at each other about how nostalgic we are, and I love the fact that yours has got what I like to call legitimate Aero Coupe body to it, which most of the guys kind of like take Marshall Sutton and some of the other ones. It's got just the regular notch back, but I love the Aero Coupe style, and it just looks so much better out there on the track.
Well, I appreciate it. It is a good looking car, and we bought that car. Didn't do a whole lot to it but paint it. The guys that we bought it from did a great job on fabrication on that car, and it looks really, really good. I need somebody to see the back end of it. Unfortunately, hadn't been a whole lot of people looking at the back end of it this year, but hopefully that'll change.
Well, Steve, we appreciate you being on this evening. You've definitely gave us some great insights on everything and kind of what it takes, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the winner's circle, not only in the Renegade, but we'll be up there in the booth pulling for you in the street stock car as well. And hopefully we'll have you on as a first-time street stock winner a little later on in the season.
Well, I hope so. And I want to take this opportunity to say thanks again so much for all the people, the staff at Hickory Motor Speedway, for making my employees feel welcome. They did a great job. Everything was laid out for them when we got there. And, they helped with some of the grandsons gets to wave the green flag. Some got to ride around in the pace truck, and that's something they'll never forget. And I appreciate that lifetime memory for them.
Absolutely, and that's what Saturday night racing's all about. It's always nice when you can get those things where people get to be not just to watch the show, but a part of the show. And that's one thing I love about working there. Being a fan for a long time before I started getting announced. I mean, when you start getting to experience those things, it is literally lifelong memories that you'll you'll carry on with you forever. And I mean, it's great that you can have all your family and everything there. And that's just, I'm sure that's real special for you too, being able to have all your family and friends that, come and enjoy a night at the races and just, enjoy and fellowship with one another. It's kind of like church, but at the racetrack, you get to fellowship with everybody.
Yeah, it's a little different in church sometimes, but I agree with the analogy. It's when we were growing up, that's what we did every weekend. I seriously do not understand how mom and dad did it, but we raced every Friday, every Saturday, sometimes on Sunday, sometimes on Thursday, every week through the summer, all year long. I truly don't see how they did it.
Yeah, man, it's a full-time job. It really is. And I've learned that just in, my short couple of years of being at Hickory and being an employee, right? And being there every week is just realize how much work actually goes into this Saturday night race. And when you talk about, racing on Fridays and Saturdays and sometimes Sundays and Thursdays and all these different so many races in one weekend. A lot of people we've had on and had conversations with us have sort of had a similar thing to say. And man, I just, it takes a lot of time. So it's a huge commitment. But yeah, you guys really you do sacrifice a lot to race at Hickory and race at these other places. But it gives me, just as a fan, another level of respect because I see that commitment.
And it is a commitment. And I want to say something about Lee Holman. He's my best friend, and he's been there to support me. He's retired now, and he could come and go and do whatever he pleases. But he helps us every Tuesday, every Thursday, and every Saturday. He's my spotter. And I want to make sure I said something about him because I couldn't do any of this without him. And I really love him. He's one of my best friends and couldn't do it without him.
Well, Steve, we certainly appreciate you being on and coming on the show with us, sharing some insights about what it takes to get to the racetrack and how much fun it is for not just you, but for the whole team and everything. And we'll see you this coming up Saturday.
We'll be there. We'll have both cars there on Saturday, and we'll have Kim with me. She's my biggest supporter, and we'll see you all on Saturday.
Thank you so much, Steve, for coming on, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Y'all have a great day.
All right, that's Steve Smart on America's Most Famous Podcast. All right, so we're here with our second guest of the podcast. We got Charlie Watson on the show with us. Charlie, how are you, man?
Good. How about you guys?
Doing good, man. Good to have you.
Yeah, glad y'all invited me in and talk a little bit.
Yeah, man. So I see you in your shop. What you working on tonight? What's going on up there?
Man, in this business, it's about nonstop. I don't know. There's something to do every night. It's like a full-time job. Plus, the grading during the day. So, it takes several hours to cover it all, but we managed to get it done.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So you're running a lot at Hickory. You run all over the place a lot of times, but you've been at Hickory the last couple of weeks, running pretty good. Talk about Saturday night. What was going on with your car there Saturday night?
We had a really good car all day. Ben Thomas obviously kind of tied to qualifying, but he got it, I guess, with the fourth digit or whatever. So, but I felt like we had a good car all day, a good long run car. And, the green flew there. Everything was real good going into one. Coming out of two, it just started sputtering. And, we came in, we put a carburetor on it, MSD box, and it ended up being a fuel pump. So, something I did not have on the truck that I always will now for sure. But especially for a twin race, you always got another shot. So, yeah, the fuel pump went out in it. So that kind of ended our deal there that night.
And you guys are still using a mechanical pump on those cars, right? It is not a electrical pump.
Yeah, it's all mechanical, and it's got a little push rod in there. I thought it might have wore it out, but that wasn't the case. It was the pump itself. We tested it here at the shop, so just didn't have no pressure.
I know that's hard to overcome. I know that I was looking at your Facebook post the other day and said that might be the last time you run for a little while. Is it one of them deals where I know, whenever we interview you and stuff at the racetrack, not all the cars that you bring are always necessarily yours, as far as, you maybe testing one out for a customer or checking one out, trying to shake the bugs out of it before you give it to somebody. Is that kind of where you're at right now, or just kind of covered up and going to take a little hiatus before it gets hot?
Well, I got some customers we take care of, and that obviously pays the bills too. And you always try to help somebody else. I've learned that when I acquired this business. We try to help others. Just kind of put me on the back burner a little bit in my racing career, but it's always good for me to see someone else do good in our cars, and if I can help them do that, that's what I want to do, and I feel like that's what I should be here to do. So sometimes I had to hop out of the seat and focus on others and try to help them get fast and win races.
So how many cars, I guess just on average, you guys are doing a lot up there. So how many guys are you kind of helping out at one time? How many cars you working on and overseeing?
I mean, it's different every week. We got several cars out, Florence, Caraway, they're all around up near in Tennessee. I think last year as a group we had like 98 wins total and for the PRW cars. So I mean, you take that and that's just the winners. So there's definitely several customers out there you service to get that many wins, and just a lot of guys out there that don't necessarily ask for help, but sometimes you just reach out and try to help just because you're trying to build and trying to get faster and make sure they don't need anything.
So whenever you took over that business, 2 years ago now, I guess it was.
It was a year. We're calling it January 1st. It was a year January 1st.
Okay. So what is that? How big of a difference in just even in your personal life is that? I mean, I know you obviously had that very successful grading business for a while, and then bought PRW out, and I mean, I'm sure that just that's got to be super rewarding. A bunch of guys you're helping out with, and obviously real successful with it, but. It looks like I can see back there in the back right now. You guys got a lot you're working on. I'm sure it's taking a lot of time too.
It does, and it's it honestly it puts a strain on some things. The grading business is still wide open, as it always is. So I had to take care of that. But the nighttime hours are there. You just have to pick and choose what nights you're going to be there. I got a family at home, so I definitely need to be there some to fill their needs. And sometimes I don't do the best at that. I get overwhelmed with racing and working, grading, whatever. But you just try to fit it all in. It is tough. It takes a lot of time, so we just do the best we can at it. And my wife sometimes comes down here and hangs out just to make time with each other.
Yeah, man. Well, going so far this season, just in where we've seen you on track, see a lot at Hickory. You had a lot of good finishes so far this year. So, what does I know you're tied down with all that stuff you got going on, handling the business and everything. So, what's your racing schedule going to look like throughout the remainder of the year?
Well, most of our other guys, they run up at Tri-County, and I do take care of two up there. And well, there's more, but we keep two here. We go to the track with. So, and they're not every week scheduled. So I'll be back when they're off. But so like this week, y'all ended up running together. So I don't know why they don't do the Friday thing. Honestly, I ain't figured that out. But we'll be back probably the next week and see what we can do then. Hopefully, keep bringing fast cars. We've been really good the last 2 weeks. I was very pleased with that. So probably in 2 weeks you'll see me there, and we'll give it another shot and get another fuel pump in there and see what we can do.
I know it's been a hot minute since you've had the super truck out. Is that something that you're still playing around with a little bit too?
No, I actually sold that super truck to a guy down in Florence, and actually been helping him with it. And the first race out, he sat on the pole and won the race. So I was real tickled there. That thing, we actually put a front clip on it before I sold it. Well, I run it the last several times with it, and it's just been a good truck, man. That thing is hard to beat. I mean, y'all saw it. It's pretty dominant. So he took it down there, and I was really pleased for him to take it to a different track and do the same thing.
Yeah, man, that is pretty cool. That's got to be like a pretty good feeling when you see your stuff going around and winning it. Not only at where you've been successful at, but then somebody else taking it to to their spot and being able to run good with it. That's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely, man. That thing's really been good to me, and I'm glad it's serving him well and running good for him.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, I know we're kind of jumping all over the place maybe here with this, but kind of walk us through like you as a racer. Where did you start? Like, what's your background in racing? What makes you want to be a racer? What's put that instilled that in you?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I used to come to Hickory with my uncle, and we sit up there in the wood grandstands at the coming out of 4 there, and that was back when they had like 30 of them 4-cylinder cars, and they would put on the best race of the night, above the late models or anybody. And I told him one night, I said, man, I want one of them things. And that never happened. I actually started in a street stock, and I won. I think it took me 5 races to win a street stock race. So, obviously when you start winning in street stock, where you think, well, you need more. So then we ended up in the limiteds, and, I won several limited races, and then I went straight to late model, probably too quick, like most people do. But once it's in your blood, it's there. I mean, it's there's no getting rid of it. I've often thought many times I would try, but it ain't going nowhere for sure now. So it's just something I enjoy, and I'm so thankful my family backs me with it and gives me the time to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is pretty cool. How have things changed, from starting in a street stock to where you're at now and racing in modern times? What over that span, how have things changed for you?
Well, I could tell you a late model's a lot easier to drive than a street stock. I mean, a street stock's probably funner because it don't drive as good, but going from a street stock to a late model is like going from a Pinto to a Cadillac on the highway. I mean, it's definitely drives better. You got way more components to make it drive better. So, and then over time, it was all conventional stuff back then. We was no bump stopping, coil binding, nothing like that. So, and actually through the progressive of the bump stop stuff, the driving got easier again. And, at this day and time, I don't know really what the next step would be in these cars to help them perform better. I mean, you can build different parts to bolt on them, but, I would think we're about tapped out. I don't know. And now it's just trying to outsmart your competitor on where you put stuff, how you're making stuff work on the car. So, that's what's making it tough too. Everybody's so good now, and everybody's got the engineering and the technology. So, you got to edge them somehow in your shop to something they don't know about. So, and that's what we're doing here. We're trying to come up with stuff. We do a lot of test and tuning of different things to provide not only for us, for our customers. So, and then nothing's a secret. Once you tell somebody else about it, it just goes down the line. So then you got to start something else to get faster. So, you know how that works.
What are some areas on the car that you look at and say, hey, maybe I could tweak that? I mean, you might not be able to say this; it might be confidential. But what are some things that maybe you have figured out and everybody knows now? But what are some of those areas you look at and say, let's tweak this just a little bit, or let's do this or do that?
Yeah, there's several. I mean, a lot of it's in the front end, honestly, to get to turn and how it works. You can use the rear a little bit for that. I won't go into that, but mainly front end components, spindles, mainly, and truck arm stuff's getting technical nowadays. So, and then track bar stuff and movement everywhere is what's kind of the game is now. So, I don't know how much I should talk about that, but that's the new thing, if you know what I mean.
Well, and that's one reason we love coming to folks like you, that know so much about these things, because we're announcers. We're fans above all else. I mean, we're like you, man. We're just up there pulling for everybody to, go out there, beat and bang a little bit and have a good time. And I'm one of those folks. I used to drag race and stuff some back in the day, and the technical side of it has always fascinated me with an oval car, just because it's so much different and so technical, and there's every aspect of the car has got to be there in order to make that car turn, perform. You got to get be able to get in good and hit that apex and really get that forward bite off the corner. And you guys have definitely got that part of it down pat. With the late model program and everything, and it's I don't know, it's fascinating to me to see how all that stuff works.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot going on and a lot of room for error, or a little bit of room for error. So I mean, you see the qualifying times. You're taking thousandths now between people, and that's pretty close if you ask me. So it's tight. It's really tight nowadays.
Yeah, definitely tighter than it used to be. Say even I don't know. I look back at how much different things were even 10 years ago, which doesn't seem like a long time, even just a few years ago, in the way that some of these guys set these cars up and stuff like that. I know it always. Me and Kevin had talked at the track one time. It seems like things go through seasons sometimes. We'll sometimes say, oh, well, we're going to use a standard 5-on-5 pattern. And then, now it's, everybody's went back to the wide 5 stuff. And it just, it's always, how do we build a better mousetrap? And sometimes it, different way of thinking, maybe the old way of thinking, depending on how as time passes.
Well, you can definitely get out of the box thinking about it. I can tell you that. You can get out in left field real quick, trying things and whatever. Sometimes you just got to go back to your basics and, go back to the level package you started with and then just a little off that and stay consistent of what you know and what's going on your car.
Now, I know that you've gotten the opportunity to travel around to, not just Hickory, but as you mentioned, Tri-County earlier and some of these other tracks like Florence and whatnot. Of all the places that you've had the personal pleasure of running, I always like to ask everybody this. Obviously we're partial to Hickory, but where is if you had to pick one place, it's like a place that you have run that was just your favorite place ever to go, where would you pick?
Obviously Hickory, I love to drive just because it's a challenge. And you have to hit your marks every lap. But I like Motor Mile. I like that place, but they're not in business no more. I always like to go up there. Carteret County, we love going down there for their big race at the end of the year. It's a flat track, so and then it might be that you just don't get to race there a lot. It might be nothing better about it, but you just like going because you don't get to go. So. But yeah, Hickory is always a challenge, and nothing's the same about it when you go back the next week. I won 2 weeks ago, and I went back this week, similar package, changed a few things where I thought would make the car better and different, and ended up changing more than I would thought when I got to the track. But once we got it tuned in that day, it was fine. But I'm sure the next time we go back, we want to do the same thing.
Yeah, Hickory's definitely one of those tracks, and we see that a lot, especially you talk about some of the lower divisions like street stock and stuff. The heat really affects that track. Is it the same for a late model car where it really, makes the place so much more greasier and makes it harder to get around?
Yeah, we haven't really gotten into that hot time of year totally, but this new tire is on. I think you can really beat it to death, and it don't really go nowhere like the old 45 did. Is what I've seen out of it. So, I mean, I'm sure later in the summer you get them 90-degree days. I'm sure it's going to get slicker. I'm interested to see how the tire holds to that. So far, I'm really pleased with that 45 star. That was an improvement in my book for Hoosier for sure. So, time will tell with that and temperature. So, I'm hoping it sticks that way and stays that way.
What changes made about the tire? What makes that better in your book? What kind of deal, what's different than the old 45?
Well, it's like the other night when me and Bumgarner were running side by side the whole race. I feel like on the old 45, me and him would at least, knocked each other around more. Definitely got a lot more slicker. It just hangs with you. I don't know. And even in qualifying, by the time you get to 3, the car's hooked up, ready to go. Used to, it took a lap for me personally. I mean, it might just be me to get to 45 where it gripped up good. But now I could pull out and scuff through 1 and 2 there, and by the time I get to 3, I'm gripped up, ready to go, and that's why you're seeing the dead laps faster than you always have. The laps you don't count, and then you go right into your money laps, and there's the cars that should be there.
Yeah, something we've definitely noticed on our end, kind of keeping track of when you guys are running on the this season with the new tire, is the fall off is not nearly as bad, especially you get into race number 2, you get into those 60, 80 laps. I'm anxious to see we have our first 100 lap race here in a few months, how much we have, but it's not, you've only got typically a couple tenths of fall off unless you get somebody out front just trying to save their stuff a little bit. But is that kind of what you guys are seeing in the race car too? Just doesn't have quite the dramatic fall off that the old tire had?
Yeah, I mean, some of them races were still in the 40s, low 50s. The 40 lappers, and I think me and Bumgarner even side by side the other night ended in the 50s, and you didn't see that much on the old tire. And I thought us running side by side like that, the rest of the field would have called us. You're normally a tenth or two slower running like that, but I ain't done a long run, 100 lap run on them tires, so I mean, that'll be a new ball game for everybody when that hits for sure. I'm sure by then I will do a good long run and make sure we're where we need to be for that. And I hope I get to run that race because I love the long races way better than the short twin 40 races for sure.
Now, do you have any champ plans this season? I know you said you were going to be running a little bit of a limited schedule, but are you trying to run any big races anywhere, in any of the racetracks or a Cars Tour race at Hickory or anything like that, or Tri-County?
I would love to get to the Cars Tour at definitely Hickory and Tri-County because that's my home tracks. I'd love to make it to Martinsville this year, but like I said, I've learned about this business. I've been trying to build me that car I've been racing recently is a car, we just put clips on and I refurbished it. So I haven't got a new car out, our new style car out yet myself. We got rid of 6 last year. We sold 6 new ones. So, and we're getting good feedback off of them. So we're hoping that continues. But I haven't got to actually drive one myself. So, I'm just going off of what everybody's telling me. I have worked on them, and it's definitely a lot easier to tune in than the older stuff.
Now, you brought up a good point. I always like to know things like this. So if a man was to come and be like, "Hey, I've got a racing program. I want a new chassis." So how much does something like that cost in today's money?
The chassis is a better chassis. Our chassis is $15,000. I mean, I'll tell you what it is because when they call me, I'm gonna tell them what it is. There's different ways of getting it. You can get it rolling, you can get it bare, you can get it front suspension. So there's a lot of money difference there on the variety or the package you get. So,
Sure.
I mean, you can spend $15,080. I mean, if you want it rolled out of here, ready for a motor transmission, it's obviously a lot more. And we've done a couple like that, luckily. So the guys must be liking them, and that's what makes us happy, and we're glad they're happy. So.
So that's always interesting to me. So you said it's usually like a 15 to 80, which is kind of, and that's still minus motor transmission.
Yeah, I think our roller car is 75,000 or something like that. I mean, that's what we're advertising, which sounds like a lot of money, but you got a body, $5,000 for a body, 5 for a rear end, 5 or 6, and then you got the car, center link steering box, wiring harness. It all adds up, and then you got all the labor to put it together. So, I mean, everybody knows this sport ain't free, but we're trying to do it as cheap as we can do it for our guys.
Well, I always like talking to folks about, my dad used to race, and he raced late model. I think the last car he had, he got out of racing in 81, and he built I'm sure you're probably familiar with him, a Chrysler kit car. And I want to say my brother had told me that Dad in 1980, which is when they finished the car with a new Chrysler engine and everything, and they had $30,000 in it in 1980 money.
Wow.
And I'm just like, Jesus Christ! I'm like, that would just be, that'd be I'd love to know, have a calculator and figure out what that would be now. But I mean, that's what you're telling me. That just, it doesn't sound far fetched, because I mean, you're going to go out there and win. You want PRW stuff. You want the best stuff you can get, because you're looking for, any advantage that you can get. And so no, I'm not surprised by that, because then you get into a whole nother ball game when you talking about what kind of powertrain you're going to slide in that thing.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure if we could sell them for that price nowadays, they'd run them a year and call and order another one the next year and get rid of it. So, but everything's going good, and I'm very pleased with how it's all going.
That's good, man. Well, man, that's crazy. I'm not going to be buying one anytime soon, but I just can't afford to be fast. That's what it is. You got to pay to be fast. But that is interesting to hear about that. I'm always interested in kind of, well, like Kel was saying, the business side of things. And now that you're so deeply involved in it, I find that fascinating. I would like to just just kind of sit back and watch just the process of somebody orders a car, takes it in, and tells you what they're wanting to get out of it, and then seeing how you guys break that down and continue throughout and carry that out.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's honestly, this sport has gotten out of hand, in my opinion, on the cost of it. But there ain't so much you can do.
What do you think's the cause of that? Is there certain things you can look back and say, man, maybe this is why this has gone up, or why we're costing so much?
A lot of it's just, I mean, we have to buy it before we sell it.
Yeah.
So we're surely not going to sell it less than we have to buy it for. I mean, the distributors are up. I mean, everything's up. I mean, you go out to eat now and you pay about 3 times what you did 10 years ago to eat anything, and it trickles on down to building race cars. I mean, it's just the world we live in, is the way I put it to everybody, and we just have to accept it for the time being. I don't know that there's a fix for it for right now. So when somebody comes up with one, they'll be rich. I can tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. I know there's a lot of drivers, and you've got your companies on your car, and sponsorships are a huge thing in racing. Sponsorships are crucial. What is the state of that in trying to find some sponsors for a late model team? How's that scene looking?
I've had a few good sponsors. I've had Hendrick Honda there for a while in Hickory. I've never been one of them that's really good at going out and talking to people and getting money. I mean, I don't know why. I just maybe I'm not a talkative person, but most of the time we do it all on our own. I'm very lucky. I have a really good business, me and my wife, and that we supports us well. So, that's where it comes from for me and my uncle. He's got a really good business and he puts money in it. So, it's a family deal for us. I realize the guys that go out there and work their 40 hours, definitely, I praise them guys for doing it, because I know it's going to take some other monies to get it done. And they have to work hard to go out and get it. And, that's the guys at the track you see when you're racing against. Like, am I going to move this guy out of the way? Or, I think about stuff like that now at my age. That guy's got to go home and fix this thing, and whatever it's going to, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know. It's a terrible situation for somebody to try to go out and have fun, and it just costs, and we're all adapting to it for sure.
Well, Charlie, I got to say, it's been very informative. I told Bryson, I said, if we can get us maybe we can talk to Nick, our production manager, and see if we can get one on loan. But maybe at some point, if you'd let us in the shop sometime, I'd love to come do maybe just a little walk around and maybe just, that way people can kind of see what it takes to, what kind of facility you get one built in. Because I can definitely see in the background back there, you guys have got a beautiful shop up there. How many square feet's that place?
This one's 8,000. In the shop we're in now, we're working on getting another one that's 10,000. So it definitely takes more room with your jigs, and then when you put customers' cars in here, that takes up room. I got my cars myself, so that takes up room. So, I mean, as far as I know, I'm probably the only chassis builder out there that races, that sits in the seat every Saturday night at this point. the other guys are a little older and maybe don't want to, but I still got the racing fever. So, and to me in my business, I think the feedback is better when it comes straight from me if I'm testing something that I want to try and share with our group, the PRW group. So if with me still in the seat, I think that helps us more. So I can feel that, and so I don't know. I think that's a plus in our business now, and it's really helping us here lately. I believe.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, it's been really cool to talk with you. I've watched you race at Hickory for quite a while now, and we've talked about you on the broadcast all the time, and so it's this podcast has been a lot of fun for me. Just for instances like this, we get to sit down and have a 30-minute conversation with you, and just talk about everything that involves racing and what you're doing, and so. Just for me, man, I appreciate you doing this and getting the chance to talk with you.
Oh man, I appreciate y'all having me on, and thanks for what y'all do on Saturday night. I know that ain't easy up there, talking all day. I mean, how much can you talk about? You gotta play it in a little bit. So I appreciate all y'all do for the track, and I'm sure Kevin does too. And we'll be back down soon. So and see if we can get another win. And in the meantime, we'll see if we can get some customers up in Victory Lane and see how everything goes.
Well, man, my sentiments are the same. I appreciate you talking to us. I know it. Anytime that I've ever been down trackside, especially when I got started, it's always meant a lot to me. People like yourself and your crew, you guys are always so welcome and willing to talk to us crazy guys from the media. And when I got started down there, I didn't really know anybody because I'd been out of that scene so long. And you guys have always been real kind to me, and I appreciate that. And we'll be looking forward to a PRW car being in Victory Lane again soon.
Yes, sir. I hope we get as many as we can there for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, Charlie, thanks again for coming on, man, and we'll see you at the track.
I appreciate you guys.
All right. That's Charlie Watson on America's Most Famous Podcast.
Well, race fans, what a great podcast we've had for week number 4 here. We got a chance to talk with Steve Smart from Smart Electric. Not only a great sponsor at Hickory Motor Speedway, but a great competitor, and talked about his family and friend run racing outfit. And also got a chance to speak with Charlie Watson of Watson Grading and PRW Racing Chassis. Quick recap there. Got to talk to him about what it costs to build a chassis, how he got started in racing, what he looks for the future, and how he's going to try to keep him and his clients going fast at short tracks all across America.
Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun. We've had a pretty good show today, I think. My favorite part about this is I think each week we're able to kind of give the fans a look inside of our sport at the local level and at Hickory. And today, I think I would say that they definitely got that. It was cool to talk to Steve and a little bit about what those guys are doing. Talk to him about running, the double there a couple times last year, and just his team that helping him that's helping him out, and what they're up to. So that was a lot of fun. And then talking to Charlie, throughout that conversation, we could see guys walking back and forth in the background, and you hear them turn something on and turn something off, or they're doing this or doing that. So they're always working up there, and it was cool that he did that from his shop. But learned a lot from Charlie tonight, and he didn't shy away from telling us, numbers when you asked him about numbers. Sometimes, maybe guys wouldn't want to say that, but it's part of it. Racing's an expensive sport, and especially if you want to be fast, it's gonna cost you a little bit. But I really enjoyed our conversation there with Charlie, and just discussing all that stuff and his career, and we talked a little bit off the air about some things that some ideas for us and what maybe we can do moving forward, and just different things. I think it's been a really good show, Cale.
I do too. Race fans, you can join us this Saturday night and get to watch Charlie Watson and Steve Smart go into action for a Priority Electric night at the races, where we'll feature twin 40s for the late model division. We'll have the limited late models, super trucks, rowdy Renegades, and street stocks in action this weekend at Hickory Motor Speedway. America's Most Famous Podcast will be at America's Most Famous Short Track.